we got 4 council people here, 1 on WebEx, another one joined by phone. All right. We will right now go for any public comments on any of the agenda items. No? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and take a motion to accept the minutes for the regular meeting, and if you want them together, the minutes for the special meetings.
We accept the minutes for the regular meeting and special meeting as presented.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the meetings from, the regular meeting and the special meeting from November 16th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, on to the treasury report. We will accept a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
I move that we accept the treasurer's report as submitted.
Second
Been moved and seconded that we accept the treasurer's report as presented. Do we have any comments on that, Garrett?
No comments.
Okay, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I'll take the same motion for claims and payroll, please.
Move to accept claims and payroll as presented. Second.
Been moved and seconded that we accept claims and payroll as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now, on to the judge's report, which I have right on top of the stack here. Well, that's right, where's the judge's report? Oh, I thought I had that one on top. Oh, okay. I haven't seen it, I saw this. We have no judge's report right now. But before we do that, we just have a double presentation of that next month. All right, on to the mayor's report then. All right, in the interim since our last meeting, we had our one of our public works employees resign. And we went ahead and opened that up in-house, and Brad Kinsey, who's already working for the town, was the only one that applied for it, and so we moved him over from Parks and into the Public Works Department. So he is, in essence, our newest Public Works employee, but not new to the town because he started work this last summer. All right. Next on the agenda is internet and IT. We have been going through a process of integrating to a new internet IT company. Actually, 2 companies, Blackfoot for internet and First Call for IT. And the reason this is on the agenda, because we've had some problems. Some hiccups in the road, basically, the IT company that we've had for a while, that's been taking care of our business, really didn't want to leave, so, we had to go a few rounds, and they go for a few more, but, we had some threats. Actually, one personal threat against me, that wanted me to step down, because brought up some false information and posted on Facebook, and, we had to deal with that, so it's been kind of a rodeo. Anyway, I'm hoping that we're getting past most of that. The latest one, the special meeting that we had, which was on November 16th, where we made the decision to start integrating with the new IT company. We were presented with the bill for $9,600. for something that we had never been billed for or never even knew about. But we're informed that since we were leaving after only 4 years, that they've been giving us such a good deal that we're gonna go ahead and back charge us for 4 years of some services. So that was a challenge. Basically, what we found out through this process is you do not work with a company without having some kind of an agreement on paper or a contract or something, which we had neither. Our attorney is basically taking care of all the groundwork and all that, working his way through it. But basically, it all started, I guess, in 2017 with a handshake deal with Doug Whiplinger to allow the company here to place their towers on our infrastructure to help out to get them started in their company. I really don't think, from what I've heard, the town never got anything in return for it, nor did they really seek anything. 2 years later, we started using the company for our internet and IT. And recently, we decided that we were gonna move a different direction, and that started creating some problems. Anyway, this coming Wednesday, we're gonna be integrating the new IT company and Blackfoot in here and seeing how that pieces in and how that flows, whether it's flawless or not, I don't know. I haven't heard where we're at with the $9,600 bill. All I hear people say is, different people say it's blackmail, some people say it's extortion, some people say it's heavy leveraging against the town. Whatever it is, it's not right, and it's, like I said, that took it into our attorney's hands, so we're not even dealing with it. So, we've taken care of that. Anyway, and just on a lighter note, this is, after 16 years, this would be my last council meeting. That's been this year as far as mayor, but the previous 15 plus, I've been on the council and thoroughly enjoyed what I've been able to help the town do. Basically speaking, because I don't see a lot of you guys here typically, but people get on the council, people become mayor, not for fame and glory, not for
Amen,
money.
there's no money.
They do it just because they want to make sure and try the best, to do the best they can for the town that we live in. They have to make hard decisions, they have to work hard at what they're doing, but they try their best to do that. I've worked with quite a number of them over the last number of years, and I found that to be basically a strain that runs through all of them, is that they like the town, they want to do what they can to help. And basically, they're there to protect the town from things that go bad. Now, in the IT internet, I guess I could throw this in there because we are also, when I came on, we were already had some issues with a young individual that was basically doing some nefarious things against our police department, our police chief, and following them around and flipping them off and doing all kinds of fun stuff, harassing the police department. Now that young man had stopped, and now he is basically starting up a little more harassing on the internet, and basically got a couple things out there. My grandson shared with me last night, he's up in something, I don't know what it is, but basically talking about our police department and our mayor was a dictator, but they're really looking forward to Joel coming on, but.
You should get a job, buddy. You should get a real job.
Thank you.
It's sad that guys thrown out there, but Mr. Street, if I tell was stand up and take a bow if you like to, but
Yeah, there you go. Stand up and take a bow.
He's got his wife protecting him.
he's not been very helpful as far as Our police department works hard. Our police chief works hard. We have people out there trying to do the best that they can. Serve the town and the people do the best they can. It's just unfortunate that we have people out there that, really wanna fight against that. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. Anyway, next thing on my agenda is the Christmas tree. You'll notice that the Christmas tree that we talked about last month, that was supposed to be planted, didn't happen. But it got a little bit too cold, got a little bit too wet, got a little bit too sloppy, so the Christmas tree did not get planted. So instead, they put in a tree, got a stand stood up there and decorated, and so this next spring, early summer, they said they were still planting. The Lions Club is the one doing this. They're gonna come in and they're gonna plant a tree. And they are gonna take care of it, and they're gonna water it, and they're gonna have that for years to come to use for the town for their Christmas tree. The one that we ended up taking out, that was sitting over there, I know there's some people disappointed that that disappeared, but it was getting far too big, far too cumbersome, blocking views. And then I was just informed today that, Robert McNeil was, very disappointed because she felt planted. But I think hopefully we'll get a new tree that's gonna be good for years to come to most of our, the people of here's lifespan, and we can enjoy it. All right, January meeting. So when the council meets in January with Joel at the helm, it will be, you'll have to make a choice, the council will have to decide if you wanna meet on Tuesday, January 2nd, or the following Monday, which is the 8th.
Works better for me.
So everybody's all right with the 8th?
Yep.
Chad? All right, so I guess the 8th it is. Just like Henry. All right, with that being said, the mayor, we are setting that up to swear him in on December 29th. We do not have a time set yet. But the 29th, on a Friday, it's a work day, that is when we're planning on getting that done, so that he's ready to go come Monday. That's also a song. Yes, Friday the 29th. As long as that fits in your schedule, because you have to do that. Not yet. Thanks. Start to get ready. All right, next on my list is water usage. For those of you that were here last month, you might remember that we had 14%, which was quite good. Not wonderful, but quite good. So that's a good now. Right now, we pumped 3,588,000 and sold 2,211,600 for a 38% loss. Why, you ask? We had two massive leaks that were just recently fixed, one by the old town pump, and the other one over by the school. And I know for sure the one by the town pump had been leaking for a while. And when you have one of those that are just ruptured and just pouring out water, it can leak a lot of water in a short amount of time. And then last but not least on my list is police officers. Both of the police officers that we have hired this last year who are doing a tremendous job. neither one of them are post-certified at this point, so they are going off to, Helena. We're blessed enough to get them into schooling starting in January. When we first hired them, it was not looking like they were gonna get in that soon. But thankfully, they were able to get in there, and we get them both trained at the same time. It's a 3-month course, and by the time that's all said and done, then they'll be post-certified and ready to go. So ends my last mayor report. All right, officer reports as requested, fire department.
So, it's been a good year. We're not quite there, but we're almost there. We haven't had any loss of life this year. We haven't had any injuries to any of our members. We haven't had any major breakdowns on our equipment, so as far as the year goes, I can't ask for much more than that. So I'm happy with that. As far as our guys go, we're holding steady on our numbers. There's probably a couple guys that need to take off, just from lack of participation. And that's something that we'll deal with in due time. So I want to kind of give you guys my intent for a project coming up that I'm hoping you guys will support me on. I'd like to put an addition on the back of the city building towards the alley. A 20-foot addition that would give Public Works extra room that they desperately need, and give us extra room that we need. My major concerns are, I have guys getting dressed in the truck bay. So we fire up the trucks, and they're in there with carbon monoxide, breathing it in. It's not a good situation, something that I should have got with a long time ago. Kind of dropped the ball on that. I just want to make it right. So, moving forward with that, I'd like to try to get them out of the truck bay. Whatever I can do, get them out of there. It's my main concern. We have sheetrock that's about to fall on somebody, another major concern. So the need for renovation is pretty substantial in my opinion. So I know we have some grant money out there, so I'd like to try to put a bid in on that as a top priority for the city to take care of. Get us some desperately needed room, get the guys out of truck bay, fix the damaged sheetrock, get the public works guys some more room so they can organize their fittings. It's a win-win for both of us. I think it's something that we need, so I'm gonna move forward and try to get a bid on what that's gonna look like, and try to get that presented to you guys before we have our determination on the project money that's out there. You guys got any questions for me? Thank you.
That is a very valuable project right there that we got there. The fire department does really need the. All right, next would be police report, and we don't have any officers here. So, stats for the month of November. Calls for service, 41. Assert made, 4. Criminal and traffic citations written, warnings, 181. Citizen contacts, 8. Business bar checks, 70. Residence checks, vacation checks, 18. And other agency assist, 15. Then we go down to training hours, reserve officer training hours, we have 4. Reserve officer volunteer and uniform hours, 8. And paid reserve officer hours, we had 2. So basically speaking, it looks like they had a busy month. Okay. Public Works Department. Mr. Bruce, up to the podium, please.
One small correction, last month we had 3 service line repairs.
Oh, we have 3, that's right.
We had one on Veterans Day also. And this is gonna become something that's gonna be more common in the future. We have 400 service lines in town that have not been replaced, they were put in 1965. They're copper or galvanized, they're wearing out, and, when they go, they go. The First Street project this spring that was done was wonderful because there was, I believe, about a dozen service lines that were placed with that project. And also the street got repaved. Now, when that happens, what happens is they give us we get the grant to do this, and 2/3 of the street is repaved with that grant. The city kicks in the other third approximately. So we're looking at the worst possible streets with lots of service lines to try to get more granting on to do that. Other than that, Public Works is going really well. You guys know, we lost a valued member of Public Works to cancer, and that was a big hit. And it's some big shoes to fill, and we're trying to do it, and hopefully we can do as well, if not better, as Greg Welty did. So looking forward to the challenge and keep going. And I wanna reiterate that Tony, this project is absolutely amazing. Really absolutely better. And but if you were to walk through that building, he's not kidding when he's talking about the sheetrock falling on somebody. It's literally there. So, there we go.
Perfect. And since you brought up Mr. Welty, and that slipped my mind, yes, it's been a tough year. I came on in January, and within a matter of days, I was informed that Mr. Welty had been here over 20 years, and that he had a brain tumor. And that hit me pretty hard. It was pretty rough for me personally. I know Greg, since we were in high school. That combined with the fact that he was somebody that we relied on here at the town and took care of so many things. He had so much knowledge, and he still does, locked up in his head. And all of a sudden, we're not able to have him right here to rely on that. And he still has input to Bruce, he still has input to me and the town when he drops in. But it has been a tremendous challenge. I pray for him, he's been going through the process they've been going through. All of that being said, that he has stayed on the rolls all year as an employee using sick leave. And now, on the 16th of this month, there's gonna be a retirement party over at the Senior Citizen Center at 5 o'clock. So everybody that is able to attend that, I'm sure he'd appreciate, those of you that can show up, wish him well. His challenges aren't over by a long shot, but as a fighter, he stays upbeat, typically always has a smile on his face still, and just keeps moving forward. Anyway. All right, unfinished business. Pickleball, MOU.
Right.
I was gonna say, where's Kelly?
Chris is our new president. She's gonna step in January. I'm stepping down for personal priorities, so. So our board, voted to build 2 outside courts at the WXA. And we're gonna keep the MOUs here just because we have grants in the process and we don't want to, something to jack them around and just, follow it up. So we'd like to keep our MOUs here with you. And then we are applying for mini grants that, we could possibly do the indoor courts here because indoor courts won't be, there won't be a noise issue and our noise issue will be out there, so it should be fine. So, and third Monday of every month, we're gonna have a beginner class, so if you know
Oh,
anyone.
good,
that-
yes. I
Yeah.
still have my, I need to go learn.
Absolutely, we like, because there are a lot of people, you know, they're a little intimidated coming in, not knowing, but, we're really easy to work with and to play with. You'll even have time next month.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Time in the bottle, right?
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me and Kelly? Then we'll just keep you afloat as things progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna, and all the input that you had there, Kelly. Thank you.
She'll be next time. All right, thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Okay, Josh Wiedemann, Harvest Church, come on down. I don't know.
Falling.
Good evening, everybody. So last month I came here on behalf of Harvest Community Church. We had put in for a permit to do an expansion and put a foundation under our church parsonage. Long story short, we had obtained our permit, had our excavation done, we had a site survey prior to that, and then we had concrete contractors show up, they had forms, everything up, ready to pour. I had received a call from 111 saying that we were in a floodplain and we needed to halt. And so we have been going back and forth trying to resolve this. We had went through, as I believe I stated last time, the town of Plains floodplains regulations. And so I made a statement on page 140 that we would like a variance so we could continue our work. I believe I spoke that at that moment we had put out $34,435, and now since then we've added another $4,854 to actually re-insulate and re-skirt around the church parsonage to stop it from freezing since we were halted. So we are still here to seek a variance.
Well, Mayor, he has to be on the agenda here for the council, and the council voted to allow him to come and speak to you guys, and it's whatever you guys decide, what direction you wanna go. That'll be up to the six of you.
Well, we approved this before, but the thing that I'm surprised, and that's, is it okay if I talk to you in a minute? Because I didn't know about the Ron Warren thing and the change of the surveys. That, are you saying it's saved, or he just decided, or he said it was in the floodplain?
He said there was a misunderstanding, that he thought it was a parking lot. Granted,
Oh,
my
what he
brother
was,
had sat down and already visited with him regarding this
okay,
before we had even started.
okay, I just needed to clarify that, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we weren't part of the discussion with Ron Warren, just that it surveyed and met setbacks. And at whatever point when Ron Warren pointed out there the floodplain, we had missed that also because on their application, they had marked that they were not in the floodplain circle because they did not realize it either. And it was a matter of turning the paper over on the backside showed the floodplain came into that property. And so that's where we're at right now.
It's hard to believe that they're in the floodplain.
See.
I'm not in the floodplain and I'm lower.
Well, I don't know if I'm lower, that is a kind of a low swale in town, the thing is that, and it's a 100-year flood, am I right on that?
Yes.
And there's some, knows a lot more about this, just looking at another way to possibly read that with some new technology, because the difficulty with the liability of the town, and I don't even know that we can give a problem with the floodplain is the minute you do have a flood and you have a new building that you've built there, it's like sticking a body in the bathtub, you know, it raises that water around, so it's not just a liability on the church, but it's also a potential liability with the other properties around there. Does anybody know a lot more about this than I do, that could speak to that?
I could. The problem with the floodplain is that it's established by the DEQ. Okay, we have maps, or FEMA. FEMA establishes that. We have floodplain maps that have been in existence since they created them. They do not update these. Okay, and the chances of the flood actually happening there are very slim. Now, when we say a 100-year flood, that doesn't mean one flood every 100 years. What that could mean is you get a 100-year flood, which is the level, they call it a 100-year flood, could happen 3 years consecutively. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen once every 100 years. It could, that's an average. The way, from the classes I took from growing up in Thompson, the way the floodplain works is if the town grants a variance and that actually affects other people outside the property, they have the right to come back and sue the town for giving that variance.
Okay.
Now, there is a little bit of liability on the town there. There is another way to handle this, and it's called LOMAR, which is a letter of map. Amendment, LOMA. Letter of map amendment.
Lomar is this new technology.
And then there's some new technology out there, because this area that they're actually looking at, I've looked at, the chance, it wouldn't be a flood. There wouldn't be flowing water. The way it would happen is if the river level rose to a certain depth, it would perk up.
Yeah, water table.
Okay, the water table would perk up. So it's really not flood, and they're isolated, and because of, I believe, Central and some other areas, it would take a lot for that water to get all the way around and come back into this area. So with these isolated areas, there's a good possibility you can get a LOMA on these. And if that was taken out of the floodplain with the LOMA, then there would be no issue at all. And unfortunately, the only way that that's gonna happen is if, the only person that I know of in this area that's ever submitted those is Ron Warren.
What does it take to apply that? The Cheney, Lomar?
Somebody's gotta pay that.
$20,000, I don't know how many thousands of dollars, but you have to have specialized equipment, to basically do a different type of survey as far as elevations through that area, to substantiate the lay of the land. And there's one guy that I think that we're told that Ron employs that's retired from DNRC, that is his specialty. Other than that, I don't think we know anything about it. I haven't talked to anybody else, but that is the information that we were given. That a LOMAR is a very viable way to get that taken out, because the schematics on a map that they showed us, showed that it was not capable of flowing water through there, but it would have to be, the project would have to be done in order to do that. A LOMA is a certain elevation, and they're way too low to get a LOMA. But a LOMAR is, as far as what we've been told, the most viable option. Yes, sir.
You said Ron Warren's guy is able to do that? Somebody who Ron Warren employs?
Ron Warren knows, has the guy employed that works in that realm, and he's the one that knows that stuff. And he is who I would encourage people to talk to and find out who this guy is, and find out what all it's gonna take. And it might be in the future. Was that, Dan?
Tracy Sears is also someone good to talk to.
And Tracy Sears, who works for the floodplain administration for FEMA, she's a good one also. But it's just, it's kind of a tough dynamic, and it's not an overnight fix. But, it is something that I would encourage the church, whether the, you know, if the council decides in the end not to give them a variance, that is up to them. But that would be a line of pursuit, and for them, and then probably continue speaking with the town to see if they could, partner with them. Because that floodplain that comes up through there that FEMA did 40 years ago or whatever, cost them millions of dollars to do that. They don't wanna come in here and redo that right now because it's a lot of money for a very small population. And so they have bigger fish to fry. So, unless it is done locally, it's probably not gonna happen for a number of years. But that part of the floodplain that comes up there, where they have it coming in is what's called cross-section O, which is down below town, and the water has to actually come up a couple feet or so to even come up enough then to start flowing uphill to get to town. So it is a tough dynamic, but it's gonna take, like I said, on the ground, locals taking care of that. Because FEMA's not gonna step in and do it. But Tracy Sears, like I said, she has a lot of information. I know that, well, Bruce and John Sheridan are two floodplain people that, you know, John's the head guy here that we have for the town, and they, have been through some classes with Tracy, and they could probably help you out as far as that conversation.
Yes, and there was I know Ron said Mark Pittman looked at it and said, you know what, he couldn't find any flood risk from that. And I know even looking around us, I mean, I get it, there's existing structures, but I mean, there's still a basement 3.5 feet below us, I mean, right next door. And right on the other side of the street, I mean, it's another garage and a house that's down below. And I mean, by the time we built up to put our floor, I mean, we would be very close to where that was.
So you were saying you're not going to put a basement in it? Then?
No, we were, that was the plan.
Yes.
And there was, everything put in set up.
Yeah.
By that time, plus the base was gonna be on that, plus our floor level, I think it was gonna be raised higher than the elevations I believe Ron was using.
That does not include the basement. The basement would be below that elevation, correct?
I guess from that, yes. The footings would be yes.
Well, the basement would be.
Well, they're saying they're raising the basement more, the footings went down to a certain level, but they,
Yeah.
because of Ron's estimate, they raised the floor higher.
I have not seen that. I was never
Yes.
really,
Now, we spoke about that, I was saying that was just the footing there, and so once everything was put on there, there was gonna be base inside, so an actual floor level of the basement would be substantially higher than that grade that was cut in there.
Do we know where the floodplain, did Ron show you that?
Yes, and he said, Mark Pittman redid it, and he said there's just 2 corners there that they
So,
couldn't even find
is
in
the
that.
floor gonna be above that? Cause there was a certain,
you,
They said newer stuff, they require it to be above that,
yeah.
2 feet above that.
yes. Which is why we're seeking a variance, because we would have never dug, let alone put out almost $40,000. Had we been knowing we were doing something wrong, or just to dig a hole and leave it, and then have to put out a bunch of money to bring it back to where it was.
Would it help grant a variance if we did some kind of, sump pump or tile drain to help get rid of the water? No. In that area?
That doesn't change the elevation. And that is the problem. The FEMA elevation of that 200-year flood is the guideline, period. if you're going to do construction in that area, your construction has to be modified to be, the bottom floor of your construction has to be 2 feet above that 100-year elevation.
So may I ask why the permit was granted if that was the case?
Well, if there was a permit granted, it wasn't by the council. Number two, whoever created your drawings and did your first surveying that, made a mistake. And that's nothing we can do about that.
Was it Ron Warren who did the first site?
Yes.
So the guy who did the first sighting of it made a mistake when he gave granted permission to build. Is that correct?
Well, that's between you guys. When it comes here, and even if it goes past our building group, and they recommend for a variance, it still has to come to the council for the variance to be decided. Now, the council is now aware that, you know, that was not exactly correctly done. And the floodplain calculations were not, they were either not aware of it or miscalculated it somehow, and it got missed. So there's nothing we as the council can do to change what the floodplain calculations are. We can't do that.
Jeff Wright?
According to your manual, which Josh references, in your manual, it gives you guys permission, based on certain criteria which we meet fully, for this city council to vote and give a variance for the project. It's clearly stated in your guys' manual, and we meet all the criteria. So that is not a true statement.
Well, I'm afraid we're not going to give a variance that puts any construction in the floodplain that doesn't meet the FEMA plan. You just can't do that.
Can I ask a question of the council? And I ask all of you this. What we're really talking about is this really an actual floodplain? Like, is this somewhere where water would actually ever end up in a rational world with rational thoughts? And my question to you guys is, do any of you really think that that is a place that will ever entertain water? Because hypothetically, we've had a deep conversation about it, but we're not marking the obvious, which is, why is the federal government stepping in and making these guidelines that have taken my sovereignty away? And I want to know, as a council, are you guys sovereign? Right? You have the ability to shape policy in this town. And the identity of Harvest Community Church is one that fulfills a great need in this town, and that is a youth ministry. And we're really just asking you guys to help us further our ministry. And you do have the sovereign ability to do that. And I would not ask you guys to grant us a variance if I didn't feel myself that I would be willing to put my head on the chopping block when that day comes. Because I just go, man, is this really a floodplain? Is this why are we directing our conversation this way? Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could have some input for just a minute. I realize that Josh pointed on the agenda for the full council meeting here, but I would like you guys to entertain the church and the council too, to have a special meeting set up just for this one thing. Bring your drawings, the stuff that you have, and sit down with the council and actually have the council look at that and have a discussion on that and see what that really looks like, because it's, to me, even just sitting here, it's hard to picture, you know, what Josh is bringing across, you know, what says here, and he says the drawing does this. If you guys actually all have that in front of you, it might be easier
Actually,
to understand it, I don't know.
I was on a committee that we went over all of that, went out there and looked at that.
Well, you said they changed it since then.
They didn't change it.
No, we had pulled everything was set, poured footings and all that. And I mean,
Yeah.
they came and removed all the footings and all that. And the only other change that has been made would be once the excavation contractor comes and reburies the water line, so.
Well, I thought you said you raised it up a little bit, and it made it a little bit
In
different.
the drawings.
The actual elevation of the floor, yes, it will be. Not
That's
the footings.
kind of what I was speaking to,
Okay,
because the
yes.
elevation of the floor, I do believe, fits into the scenario on what flood administrators talk about. I don't know. But it might be easier for you guys to have actual conversation about that. Yes, sir.
Well, since it's on the agenda today, could we invite the council to go ahead and vote
Oh,
on
sure.
that today?
Well, that's up to them. They,
Go
yeah.
on like with Mr. Wiedemann, because you guys do have the oversight to overthrow the FEMA, being the council and giving a variance.
But that would require somebody on the council to make a motion and a second and a vote to move that forward.
Here's the problem with that, is if we do that now, that is gonna complicate it more, and I think there are things that we have to understand with the county and with the state, with FEMA, the federal government. It's a nice idea that we have sovereignty to kind of change the rules here, but we also have a liability that, because the other ones that are following the rules are the attorneys that will threaten their town with a lawsuit should something go south down the road. And it isn't, again, just your property, but when you build something in a floodplain, it affects all the properties around that. And so I think, I thought, well, maybe we could just have you guys, sign some type of a liability statement or something that you would accept all the liability. But the problem is that it also affects potentially affects the other properties that are in that same floodplain. I agree with you, I don't see that flooding, it didn't flood, as I remember, in '97. And so I think what we need to do is let's keep digging, at least I think we should have that meeting and let cooler heads prevail and see what we can all do. I know that the people in this council really want that project to work for you guys, I know I do. And I feel so bad about the money you've spent in it and for the, it's not the first hiccup that you've had. And, I'd really like to try and come to some type of, agreement where we can, or some kind of a plan that we can, contact you and maybe this, getting it, the Loma or whatever, looking at that, seeing if we can do this, so that it's done properly. And might actually help us down the road for that area of town.
Do the homes over there, you know Danny, because you live over there, do you have to carry flood insurance?
I'm on floodplain. There's a pretty good hill there, if you remember, right? That right down at the bottom of the hill
Yeah.
is floodplain. And there are ways to construct in the floodplain, flow-through foundations, tie downs and things like that, but they have to be permitted. And part of that process is notifying all your neighbors by certified mail and blah, blah, blah. There's a process for it, unless they change that. Catherine Burdon also, Catherine Burdon told me the other day that they have LiDAR everything now, but they just haven't changed the floodplain map, but they have LiDAR there. So that is going to bring some clarity, meaning more accurate elevations in the new FEMA maps.
Do they know about when that will be?
She did not say that.
But it's still not gonna change that under your calculation. That elevation.
No, that's right.
And so-
The elevation will be the same, probably more accurate elevations.
Right. Well, Ron shot those, survey shot points on that property. That's pretty accurate. And, you just can't argue with a point in space that's been calculated and shot by survey. I mean, it's one of those things that, is out of our hands. This is done by an entity that we have no control over. They have, rules and, regulations for working in their realm, and you either meet them or they can't go ahead and approve that project unless you meet your, recommendations for mitigating the problems that building you below that elevation would create. And I'm not just trying to be, hard nosed about it, there's one thing that creates a real problem, and that is called precedent. If we start saying, okay, for one thing, we open ourselves up for years of argument when you let them do it. And we just have to make sure that all our ducks are in a row as far as more meetings. And I'd like to get Mr. Warren and some of his LiDAR information out in front of all of us with your plans as to what you're gonna do with your bottom, your lowest floor of your construction in relation to those elevations.
I'm not sure about the word on one man. Mr. Warren's made mistakes before, as you remember the 3 acres that we ended up having to pay more money for. How about a different surveyor?
No, we could do a different surveyor, and part of that, I get you don't wanna set a precedent, but that's why there's a set of variables on each property, I mean, certain things. And that's why when we go through this and say, hey, we meet this criteria, Mark Pittman, in his report that I was told, found that we wouldn't be a threat to anybody. And so, I didn't know that FEMA still had precedent over this. And I know previously, when we came for a variance with our church, I mean, they had four meetings with the planning board. And the planning board moved it forward and recommended it. But we got shut down. Even with the recommendation,
Was that on this project or the previous project?
previous one.
The planning board here brought it to the council. Out of it, and then this all came out. And what I'm saying is, we've already paid the punishment of one bad survey, and perhaps we should get a different surveyor.
Can I get a clarification on a question I have? You guys said that having that building there could potentially be a liability for other properties because it's in the floodplain? So is that stating that it's because it's lower than all the properties around it, it may push water up? Is that what I was hearing? To affect other properties, or? I wasn't quite understanding that.
What they're basically saying is that if you put a body, your body, in a bathtub.
Yeah, exactly.
At water level, right?
So that makes sense,
So-
except for that property is actually one of the highest on the road
But it's still,
compared to next door,
it's
which
still in
is
the
extremely low.
floodplain.
Oh, no, and I agree.
and that one's grandfathered, it was there before the
I
floodplains.
I just merely was questioning the structure of hydraulic, when
Yeah.
you can't hydraulic from a high point. That's all I was trying to make the point of, and I'm not,
Whoever wrote page 140 of your guys' manual agrees with Clint, that a higher property can't flood a lower property.
Yeah.
And that's why that variance is there for you guys to get. It's really just.
that's
common.
all I really wanted to get out, in
It's
reality.
okay, it's frustrating.
Well,
Yeah, no, it is.
Ron, give you any indication
I see what
on
you're saying.
how low from the floodplain that you are? I mean, your plans are?
We said where it was dug in, the corner from the 100-year floodplain shows a 3 foot.
3?
You said the 2 front corners, cause you go back and the elevation's higher. Is how I
Toward the alley.
understood, cause then after he said there was a mistake, he said they went out and reshot.
Okay. So the corner is closest to Second, the low corners.
Yes,
right? And the corner is closest to the alley, on high,
yes,
or above the
yes,
elevation.
as far as I understand.
What's the ruling on that? Is it the top of the floor or the bottom of the floor?
The lowest floor, which is where you're gonna walk on,
Okay.
2 feet above construction in the floodplain. And so, the 2 corners, this gets kind of technical and kind of
Yeah, it does, but it
obnoxious,
doesn't need to be.
but
Simplify your
if you just, if you step into this pool, you're having an effect. And that's all I'm saying, that if that happens, there are certain mitigation requirements, set forth by the FEMA floodplain people. And that's what it was after.
Would it be okay if Josh reads this section from your guys' manual that says a higher won't cause a lower to flood?
Go ahead.
Yeah, page 140. There are two special considerations for variance approval. If the new construction or substantial improvements on a lot 1/2 acres or less, and contiguous to and surrounded by lots of existing structures constructed below the base flood level, a variance may be approved.
So what they're saying is all the properties that are in the floodplain next to it are already built lower than where they're going to be building it. So if there was a flood, they would flood regardless of whether their building is there or not. And in that instance, it can be given a variance.
Cause that basement next door to us, they're over 3 feet easily lower than us.
And that's not even reading inside their basement, which is also step down again when you go in,
Yes.
so.
Well, I'm not arguing with what you're saying, that the area there has a real low spot. But the problem doesn't lie with everybody around you. The problem is where you're going to build yourself. And, we can't change it. We could look at this some more, but there's more involved long-term that we as a town need to protect not only you, but our other neighbors and our liability. The funds that our town has, to work with. Because if a lawsuit or something goes downstream of this, that would jeopardize the ratepayers' money. And we
I
wanna make sure we
disagree
don't do
with
that.
everything you're saying. I really do. It's common sense. At some point in a community of this size, you need to have common sense. And I'm with you about the feds and all. I don't give a hoot about those people. I care about these people. And maybe we could get into some sort of agreement, a liability release agreement, that if you gave the variance, you would take the brunt of something if something ever happened, which is never gonna happen anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and that was brought up, and we also said, hey, we will have to carry flood insurance, or
Yeah.
we own our property, and
We're not bureaucrats. We're council people.
Thank you.
But when my name is brought up on something like this, I take that personally. I'm not just Wilson-Dixie, and I don't feel that I should be, cast as a bad player, but I'm just trying to deal with realities of what is there. And responsibility for construction lies between the property owner and the contractor to be within the setbacks, the variances and all that sort of thing, on your end of it. The council has our, ordinances and things that we look at, and we do have the leeway to make changes where we feel it's okay. And we will look at these things, and we will listen to your arguments, but we're not trying to hurt people. I'm not out to cause anybody any problems, but when things look like they may create a problem for somebody else now, it's real easy to say, well, it's only my little property here, but yet we do have the entire town to consider also. And there are a lot of properties that need, some help, should be able to be, worked on in the future. Should they be worked on in the future, they're gonna have to change some things. It's just the way it is. So, at this point, with this property, with this situation, we just found ourselves at a loggerhead here. We need to do a little more work. And, if you wanna look at another surveyor, and you wanna look at some more points, you wanna talk to, Who was it, Kathy Madrone or Sears, I've reached out to the, FEMA folks a number of times and got nothing. Dealing with government is not always really pleasant.
No, and that's why they shouldn't.
That shouldn't be involved.
That are overseeing this, cause I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I think in reality, we are not in any sort of way of a threat. And I know we kinda running around it, and we ran into this last time, where it was the same issue, where it was that you didn't wanna, cause any issues for anybody else, but I mean, that same thing had full approval from the planning board. And I mean, we're just getting stonewalled, the same thing.
Well, since we have 6 council people and,
One
we have,
disagrees.
Chad, do you have anything to weigh in on this situation?
I would be interested in a meeting, but I agree with Joel that voting now wouldn't do us any good.
Meaning?
Meaning that, we do have an ordinance, so you have to abide by what FEMA says about the floodplain.
Okay. And Garrett, do you have input?
Honestly, I'm a little torn on this issue. I agree, I would love to see the Harvest project move forward. I personally do not have much knowledge as far as floodplain management. One thing I would like to just mention though, on page 140, what was just read, I'm not sure who read it. The following sentence after that refers to lot sizes greater than 1/2 acre, and if I'm not mistaken, the lot in question is greater than 1/2 acre. I'm sitting at a computer here at home and I was there's a reference to a 44 CFR 60-6, I looked that up and it refers to something called the Federal Insurance Administrator in regards to floodplains, and that they have they would review variance requests for lot sizes greater than 1/2 acre. And I think that's possibly something to look into as well, too, if we're gonna be following, by the letter, in even considering granting a variance.
Okay, thanks, Garrett. John, do you have anything to add, or?
Well, that was why I asked about the level of the floor, whether it was the bottom of the floor or the footings. What did they consider legal floodplain being above? And that's why I asked about that. And then I asked you what Ron said, how low are you? Meaning, I guess, could you run 80 inches of fill in there, and then with the thickness of your floor, it's not even an issue, it becomes a moot point at that point. I wish we had more information, so I guess I'm trying to find a way where you can do the project and it doesn't even involve any of this stuff, by maybe putting in a little fill and bringing it above the levels, and then now it doesn't even matter. That's where I'm going with
Because
it.
we already talked about the wells that would take the water excess down. We've already planned that. So if you raised it a little bit, it wouldn't matter.
What was the thickness of your floor gonna be there? I mean,
Well, I'm sure it was
approximately.
gonna be probably 6-inch slab, and how much base was brought in would probably be 6 to 8 inches, depending on what the excavation contractor seems
Yeah, I don't know
State
what the
fit.
norm, I don't know what the norm on base is.
But if it's all sudden that, oh, this is back there and you need to beat something, I mean, we'd be putting a skyscraper on Second Street.
Yeah, we're not trying to promote an eyesore there either, you know, which is what bringing it up probably 4 feet would even do. You know, it's like, at that point, you're asking us to promote the fact that we were higher than everybody, and now we need to be higher than we were. It's just odd. I don't
Hey,
know.
good thing, put a cross on top, and we're all looking up for Jesus, it's fine. Small town.
Unless you're a neighbor.
If I'm your neighbor, I'd love to look at the cross, it's fine.
So I'm gonna throw this out to you, Josh. Do you want us to call for a motion on to approve or not, as far as the way it sits, or would you guys rather have a sit-down meeting that would be noticed also and people can attend, to actually have things down on paper and have a little bit better discussion? That would be up to you. And that would be up to the council whether they would entertain that also.
Actually, vote on it.
Vote on
I would have a meeting, cause most of your council members don't wanna vote on it, so it might not go well. I would have to.
It'd be good to know exactly, rather than lock it up and slap it down again, we wanna make this work.
Yeah, I don't, we don't have kids.
No, you can tell that. They want more meetings. Smart bed is to go
Find
to.
out exactly what we are.
It's frustrating, because you've been to meetings and you've been to
That would be a motion by the council to do that.
Yeah, oh, I do have one question. There was a foundation found at that level of a structure that was already there. And it didn't flood, it looked like it was bulldozed. But there was, yeah, it was found down that many feet. So.
We'll build on that and we can grandfather it.
I was gonna say, yeah. You build it, grandfather it in.
Can you build on it?
No, it's probably gone.
Oh,
No, they ran the bulldozed it.
well, that's a bummer, dude.
They had to.
It's probably the corner grocery.
I would like to see another survey. I really would. And they're not that.
Well, it's not gonna be a
Well,
survey because they are in the floodplain. It's just a matter of figuring out what they can do to get close enough. They don't want to spend that money.
And Connie, it's not the town council's responsibility to do a survey.
No, I know, I'm
Okay.
talking about them doing another.
So basically, if the council's going to, if they want the council or asking the council to, move to have a special meeting with them or not, that would be the council's purview to do that.
Yeah.
But they would have to pass that.
So I'd make a motion that we have a special meeting, ideally maybe the end of this week sometime in the morning, if it's for whoever it works, to maybe set some action points of, you know, who we need to contact, and just look at this scene a little more. In the meanwhile, contacting a few, that was a really long motion. I move we have a special meeting later this week if we can do it about this issue.
And is, later this week, is that enough time to bring your information together, Josh?
Yes.
I think just with holidays coming, if we can get after it.
All right, so we have a motion, and we need a second on that.
I'll second.
We have 2 seconds. No thirds. So we will take a vote on that, please.
Okay, Joel?
Yes.
Connie?
Yes.
Chad?
Yes.
John R?
Yes.
John S?
Yes.
Garrett?
Yes.
So then, the council would like to see later this week, maybe Friday morning, is that what you're thinking, Joel?
Would that, what would Friday at like, 9 o'clock do for people?
That's fine.
Friday night's fine for me.
And meanwhile, everybody do as much homework as you can on this. I'll try to make some calls and see what we're dealing with and set some action points.
Feel free to just drive over and stand on the property too. And you
Well,
can-
I have,
you
you
can
know,
do everything.
I have, and look, and I get the common sense thing, I do, but, we kinda gotta know who we're talking, and what, you know. I don't
Friday at 9 a.m. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for all your input.